Alright, let's look into the Type on Path tool. So as you can imagine, this tool allows you to type text or other kinds of type along a path. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So I'm going to come over here back to the tool panel and hold down on the type tool group. Then I'll come right over here, type on path tool. And the way this works is you need to have a path to add your type onto. So in this case, we're going to choose this path right here. I'm going to hover at the front of the line where I want the text to start and click once, and you can see it added the dummy text. I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of that. There's a little bit of a delay, and I'll change it to a bolder typeface so it's a little easier to see. Type on path is awesome. Select that again, and I'll bring this up to some ridiculous size. Maybe too big. And I'll click V for my black arrow, and there we have it. We have type that is following along a path. So let's zoom in and look at some other types of controls we have after we make our type on a path. So to do any edits to type along a path, we need to use the white arrow key. And we have these ledgers at the front right here. So if I hover over this part, I get an arrow symbol, and it looks like a vertical line with an arrow next to it. It's letting me know that I can move this type along the path from here. I can also come over to the very end of it, and I could pull this in, and I could actually reduce the amount of text coming from this side. I'll go ahead and pull that one back open. It's hard to see, but there's one right here in the middle, and this one you can move the text as well from the middle, but the other thing this one allows you to do is flip the text. So you have to make sure that you hover and wait for that icon to show up, and then I'm going to click and pull this down, and you can see as I do that the type flips along the path. So I'll do that one more time. I'll hover next to that middle ledger, wait for the symbol to pop up, click and drag, and I'll put it back in its original spot. Cool, let's try this again. So I'll go back to my type on path tool. This time I'll choose this closed path, this rectangular shape. I'll click once and added the dummy text, and I'll just type in, this is how you, go ahead and select it and make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to bring that to about 28. This is how you type along a closed shape, period. It can be a little tricky to figure out at first, period. Go ahead and hit the escape key and choose A for my white arrow, and I'll start moving this text, see if I can get something a little more streamlined. That looks a little bit better, except for that S. So I'll click right there, and that will increase the tracking on that space. I'll actually select this D right here, and I'll come up to the tracking, and I'll increase that to 100. That way I get that clean break with the word shape, and I'll come back to my black arrow, and that looks about right. Now I'll come over to the path running vertically, and we'll use the other version of the type on path tool. If I click over here, I have another one called a vertical type on path tool. So I'll load that one and click on this path, and I'll just type in vertical type path. I'll hit the escape key, and then I'll double click on that vertical path, and I'll just hit Command and A. This time in my character panel I have a different way of tracking. Now it's going to track vertically, so I'm going to bring this down to -5, and we still are missing. See if we decrease the size. There it is. Now if I grab the middle ledger and pull it from side to side, it actually flips it from the bottom up instead of flipping it side to side, because it's actually running right down the middle. So just take note of that. Alright, I'll leave that there. And let's get some practice with actually making type follow the contours of like an ellipse or a circle. I'll go ahead and grab my black arrow tool, and I'm going to select this ring shape. Now this is a compound path, so I know that I can come up to Object, Path, and I can offset the path. So I think I'll offset this path by -0.2 and click OK. And since I know I'm just going to be getting rid of the lines, I'm going to bring this stroke weight down to just 1/4 inch or 0.25 points. And I'll grab the type on path tool again, and I'm going to click right here. Actually, before I do that, so now that I've made that outline, I'm actually going to take off the fill. And one more thing I need to do is I need to right click and go to release the compound path, because it's reading this as one shape. I want it to read as two individual shapes. So I'll click this inner one here, and I'll click my type on path tool, and I will go ahead and start with some type on the inside, the top edge, and when I'm done, I'll hit the escape key, and I'll go ahead and try it down here. And I'll hit the escape key. So now you can see that we actually need to do some adjustment because we don't want this running on this side of the line. We want it towards the inside. I'll use my white arrow tool and I will begin to adjust the placement of this. So I'm moving the back ledger and then I'm moving the front ledger and kind of lining that up. Now that that is lined up, I actually need to look for that middle ledger, which is right over here, and I will click and drag that over. And I can already see when I do that it's going to put it at the right end. I'm just holding down and dragging that ledger to the center. I will move this one over a little bit. Maybe I'll select both of those and change them to caps, increase the tracking. Go ahead and play around and kind of adjust that so that it's optically looking centered within that ring. Okay, so the last part of the type on path is a little bit of practice with a more practical graphic. So in this case, we're going to create this very basic emblem for Twin Peaks Coffee. So this first part should be exactly what we just went over. Okay, so we need a circle to put this type along the path, and then we need another circle for this part of the path. I'm going to go ahead and click this first part, this first inner circle. And then I'll do Command C, Command Shift V, and I'll hold down on Alt and Shift, and I'll pull this one up, and I'll do the same thing one more time, Command C, Command Shift V, and what I'm thinking about is the bottom edge of this text. So I'll kind of pull that out. So I could have gotten this by offsetting this path and this path. Instead, I just decided to copy, paste in place, and then size those. So I'll go ahead and put a thin stroke on those so they're not too distracting. And let's do this first one. So we need to write the best coffee in the world. I'll click the type on path tool, and I'll find that spot right about there, and click. And I will bring down the size. And I think I'll keep it as small caps. See if we can fit this. The best coffee in the world. It fits. Good job. Alright, I'll hit the escape key and I'll use my white arrow and I'll move that ledger over. That's a good spot. And I will type on the bottom path, starting from about, well, we'll start here, knowing that it's going to probably put it on the wrong side. Once, yeah, lo and behold, it put it on the wrong side. I'll just start typing from the highlands of Patagonia. I'll hit the escape key and then A for my white arrow. I'm going to go ahead and find that middle ledger and flip this text so it's inside. And then while holding onto it, I can now move this into place. And it looks like I went too far with that, so I'll just come back around. Alright. Right about there, and I'm going to click V for my black arrow, double click on that one, and this side I want to be a little bit bigger, just for fun. I'll hit the escape key when I'm done. I'll use my white arrow, and I'll go ahead and click the middle ledger to move that over. Just beware, it might want to throw it back on the top, so just keep holding onto your mouse, kind of optically align that. That's about right. Okay, so that part is done. Let's do this last part. We have two paths right here, one with this Twin Peaks Coffee and the other with Since 1897. So in order to get these paths, what I'm going to do is click on this ribbon shape, and I'm going to just go ahead and hold down on the Alt key and pull out a copy, kind of move over here. And now that I have a copy of that shape, I'm going to cut this up so I only get the parts that I need, which is this bottom path and this top path here. So I'm going to do Shift X to switch the stroke and the fill. I'll hit the C key for my scissors, and I'll begin to cut out these segments. Click on this anchor and this anchor, hold down on the black arrow, select that segment, and delete it. Okay, so now I'm left with the line segments that I need. I'll go ahead and just begin my type on path tool over here. I'll do this bottom one first, and it put it on the wrong side. So I'll use my white arrow and flip that up. There we go. And I'll pull this back ledger all the way out. And I'll go back into the type and I'll type in all caps Twin Peaks Coffee. And I'll highlight that. And let's go ahead and try 48 point stroke. Maybe even a little bit bigger. Let's try 52. I'll hit the escape key and use my white arrow to kind of nudge that over. And that looks pretty centered on that path. Okay, so now I'm ready to kind of lace that in there. I'll use my black arrow and I'll change the text to white. And I'll drag that on over. And I'll start to line up that path parallel to the ribbon a little bit more. It looks pretty good. I think actually I need to make that type bigger. So I'm just going to double click and select all of it. And let's go up a little bit more. See if we can get away with 54. And this time I'm going to go to a bold font. And looks like that pushed it over too much, but I'll decrease the tracking there. So minus 25. That looks pretty good. And then I'll hit the escape key. All right. And last part is the since 1897. So if I click this right now, it's going to load exactly the same settings for the typeface I put right here. I'm going to go ahead and change that right now. So I'll do a 12-point font, 0 for the tracking. I'll click once on there, since 1897. And I'll use the white arrow key and move that to the center. Double click, make that a 14-point font. And let's throw that back into place. And we can see that even that needs to move over a little bit. So I'll use the white arrow and move that into place. And there we have it.